Yeah.
Okay. Well, you pick. Would you like to have the audience have a go at you, or would you like to read from your autobiography?
I think, why don't you ask me something extremely rude that you're really interested in?
I was interested in the divorce, how that works.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a rude question, but I have been enjoying tremendously your book, and you're
I'm so
writing.
pleased. Thank you.
Yeah, really, and you're writing about your mom.
Oh, yes.
And
oh, yes. Well, that's where it all started,
yeah?
obviously, isn't it?
Well, would you like to read?
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you, I've got a funny bit here about Mum on page 10.
Page 10, yeah, that's the one I liked.
Yes.
Here.
This is the English version.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Christ, it isn't fluid, or something. Where we are. I said, I used to joke, she was a fearful woman. I said she used to joke that she suffered from omniphobia. You know, you name it, she had a morbid dread of it. It's true that I never saw her alarmed by a loaf of bread, or a cardigan, or even a chair, but anything above medium size that could move around a bit was a hazard, and any reasonably loud sound startled her beyond reason. I once compiled a list of events that frightened her, and it was quite comprehensive. Very loud snoring, low-flying aircraft, church bells, fire engines, trains, buses and lorries, thunder, shouting, large cars, most medium-sized cars, noisy small cars, burglar alarms, fireworks, especially crackers, loud radios, barking dogs, whinnying horses, nearby silent horses, cows in general, megaphones, sheep, corks coming out of sparkling wine bottles, motorcycles, even very small ones, balloons being popped, vacuum cleaners not being used by her, things being dropped, dinner gongs, parrot houses, whoopee cushions, chiming doorbells, hammering bombs, hooters, old-fashioned alarm clocks, pneumatic drills, and hairdryers, even those used by her. In a nutshell, Mother experienced the cosmos as a vast, limitless booby trap. And that is accurate, seriously accurate.
You have much more to say about your mother in the book. Mm-hmm. And the question is, when I did the introduction, I said she was also an inspiration for a lot of your comedy, maybe. Was she?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, because she had a very unusual sense of humor, especially, if I may make a sexist remark, for a woman, because she had a very, very black sense of humor. And that's much more usual in a man than a woman, in my experience. But she had such a black sense of humor, I was actually able to use it to cheer her up, because she was depressed, because anxious people are depressed the whole time. And when I would telephone her, I would say, oh, hello, Mum, it's John. And she'd say, oh, hello, John, how are you? I say, I'm fine, Mother. How are you? And she would always say, with a sort of a hint of surprise, she would say, well, I've been just a little bit down this week. And I don't know why she was surprised, because she was a little bit down this week for 50 fucking years. Yeah?
No.
And it wasn't nice to hear your mother being depressed, you know? And one day she was, it's just where my creativity comes from, she was going through literally all the reasons why she didn't want to go on living. And I heard myself say, Mother, I have an idea. Oh, she said, what's that? I said, well, Mother, if you're still feeling as depressed as this next week, I know a little man who lives in Fulham. And if you like, but only if you like, I could give him a call on the phone, and he could come down and kill you. There was this silence, and then she cackled with laughter. She really did. So any time after that, when she started saying she was depressed, I'd listen for a little bit, and then I would say, so, should I call the little man in Fulham? And he would laugh. She'd laugh, and it would cheer her up, and she'd say things like, oh, no, I've got a sherry party on Friday. So that's a very odd thing to make a woman laugh, isn't it? That kind of black humor.
Yeah. And she Was 101?
She died eventually. At the age of 101. And the extraordinary thing is that she was born in 1899, she died in the year 2000, so that her life spanned the entire 20th century, 1899 to 2000. She lived through the First World War, the Great Depression, the rise of Hitler and Stalin, Second World War, the atomic bomb, the foundation of Israel, the space age, the Cold War, the collapse of communism. She lived through it all without really noticing any of it. We nearly fucked it up. It's true. She had no curiosity. It's hard to explain, because it wasn't that she had little curiosity, she had no curiosity at all. And once, when I was still married to Alice Hey! Sorry. When I was still married to my last wife made a salad with little quail's eggs. Do you know what I mean? They're little quail's eggs. And my mother said, oh, these are very nice. What are they? And I said, well, they're mole's eggs, Mother. And she said, mole's eggs? I didn't know moles laid eggs. And I said, oh, yes, they lay them. And when there's a full moon, they lay them at the mouth of a burrow, you see? Yeah. And if you go up there very early in the morning after a new moon, you can collect the eggs. And cook them. And she said, well, I never knew that. Because she had no information, do you see what I mean, that would contradict that. And another time she heard me talking about Mary, Queen of Scots. And she said, oh, I've heard of Mary. Who's Mary, Queen of Scots? I said she was a Scottish darts player who got killed in the Blitz. And she said, what a shame. No information, because she wasn't interested in anything except what might be a danger to her in the next few seconds, do you see?
So how much of her is in you?
Less than there used to be. I always carried a lot of anxiety, but it wasn't of the anxiety of that kind. My anxiety was extraordinary. It was, first of all, going out on stage and not being funny, because there's nothing more humiliating, I promise you, than going out, sort of throwing yourself around and the audience not laughing. It's just a terrible feeling. And that's why comics talk about dying. You see, actors never talk about dying, but when you're trying to make people laugh and failing, that's absolutely horrible. So the stage fright I used to have was very bad. And my other fear was always if I could get everything done. I was always worrying about whether I could get everything done during the course of the day, because it always felt as though there was too much to do.
Yeah.